This video just has to happen. We just have to coin the term Genwhiner as some 5th generation fan that has no understanding of the term Genwunner, but refuses to acknowledge that there's any other way if you disagree with the 5th generation. These people are ruining the community so much. I've wanted to make this video so many times. Like every week or so, I feel like I'm stumbling into some kind of post where the misrepresentation between Gen 1, Gen 5, and all this generation war bullcrap keeps happening, and I stumble into it. I almost make the video. But this post that happened recently finally tilted me enough to go through with this video. So let's go and look at this image to begin with. And it's two electrodes talking. Man, I just don't understand new generations. I mean, really? Ice cream? So unimaginative. And this is kind of a joke, but we all know what this is meant for. This is meant for 5th generation fans to go, haha, yeah, generation 1 sucks. Look at them with their balls and literal piles of shit, and now we can actually say that our ice cream is better than them. And naturally, people jump aboard that. Tons of support, and then people that are even just miserable at any kind of argument. Well, Vanillix isn't actually ice cream, so your argument's invalid. These are the kind of people that we're dealing with. And this was another comment in response that, you know, the idea was, well, with 6th generation, there haven't been that many Genwhiners around. I wonder why. And then this guy's like, no, that's just because they were proven right. Because of all these arguments like this stupid comic automatically proves all the 5th generation fans. No, not 5th generation fans. This video isn't hate on 5th generation fans. If you like Generation 5, I've got nothing against you. If you use Genwhiner as a way to dehumanize someone and attack them for enjoying Pokemon, you're the problem here. You're the Genwhiner, and that's a Genwhiner right there. Laughing in someone's face, and no, you're just absolutely wrong. This guy is absolutely wrong right here, because it's not because 5th generation, like, we were proven wrong or anything. It's because 6th generation was so much better than 5th generation that we don't have a shitty Pokemon generation to be stuck on. I'm not a fan of the 5th generation. I don't find the designs appealing, and that's what the rest of this video is going to be about, because it's going to pretty much disprove any kind of Genwhinner BS that's floating around right now, and I love tearing apart these arguments, but this is the video I've been working on for almost months now. So as I keep talking and keep going on about this, we need to get deeper into the argument. So what is a Genwhinner, I guess, is the first question that we need to be asking ourselves. It's pretty much someone that thinks Gen 1 is flawless and that there is nothing that could be wrong with the original Pokemon and everything after Gen 1 sucks. The funny thing is, I have never met a Genwhinner in my life. Very, very, very few people have actually met a Genwhinner. There's almost no Genwhinners out there, and if there are, they're more being exaggerative. They're speaking hyperbole. They're trying to make a joke about it, because whenever you dig deeper into the topic, you will find out that the accused Genwhinner is not a Genwhinner at all. I've been accused of Genwhinner, and Klefki is one of my favorite Pokemon. That's a Pokemon that gets crap. And do I attack people for hating on the keyring? No. I understand it, I move on with my life, and that's what Genwhiners are completely incapable of. So really, it's just really butthurt 5th generation fans that actually attack in a pitiful retaliation instead of actually applying logic to the scenario. I don't know you. I don't know you personally enough. I'm not coming after you. It's not like you're saying, man, Vanillix is such a great Pokemon, and I go, ha, that's shit, why are you such a shit person? But 5th generation fans, Genwhiners, will do it the other way around. I just make a random comment like, man, I don't like the ice cream Pokemon, and then they come to me and they're like, well, what about that pile of shit, huh? What about the coconut Pokemon? And then they'll list off, oh, it's just magnets. Why do you have something against Klinklang if Magnemite is just magnets and whatnot? So they actually respond offensively. They respond with aggression, and they act like they're the victim, when really, 5th generation fans are in the minority. There are many more Pokemon fans that like all the other generations than just 5th generation, but if you have anything against the 5th generation, you're automatically a Genwhinner, even if the 1st generation is your second least favorite and 5th generation is your least favorite. You're still a Genwhinner to them, because these people are incapable of accepting any kind of criticisms, and then they'll say something like, well, you're just an idiot because your ball Pokemon is actually less inspired than the Vanillux, therefore I'm right. That's not a valid criticism, but that's how these people talk, and there's countless memes. These are the things that trigger me. I will get tilted for days if I let this go, which is why I have to make the video now before I lose any more sanity over the stupidity of Genwhiners, and I've been compiling for such a very, very long time. So let's go and get into the next part of it, which is just going to be some random comics. Like this one I found. My favorite generation is Gen 5, but I love Johto, my favorite Pokemon is Absol. And then anything past Gen 1 is in Pokemon. This is supposed to mock Genwhinners, which I've kind of already said don't really exist. And again, I will get to that proof that there's maybe 0.0001% of Pokemon fans are Genwhiners. Maybe. It's also a very, very real possibility that the accused Genwhiner is just a troll and actually doesn't believe that. I have seen people where it's like, oh man, this guy actually seems like a Genwhiner. Maybe these guys are right. But then when you do any little bit of investigation, you'll find a comment or they'll just be like, yeah, but I really like Infernape, or I think this Pokemon's cool. They just really don't like the 5th generation and like pissing off 5th generation fans because they get so upset so easy, which is the bait of trolling. But in the other side of this, you can't look at all these people defending the 5th generation. These people aren't trolls. These guys just cannot accept a criticism whatsoever, and that's where the real problem comes in. But really, the accused Genwhiners that anything beyond 151 isn't actually Pokemon, you'll find it to where like, yeah, Lugia's cool. Yeah, I played 3rd generation, kind of enjoyed it. That's not a Genwhiner. That's not what these people are accusing anything of, but they can still find this and their opinion is not respected, so then they just go full troll because you're already disrespecting them, so they're not going to give you anything back. And that's going to be a big problem with this as well. Because I can just go through and no one has ever given, I've actually posted on Twitter, I've posted like, alright, show me a Genwhiner, and no one has ever shown me a true Genwhiner. So like, look at this Genwhiner, and then he admits to 2nd generation fandom. So if anything, this comic's the opposite. The guy on top is like, well, I disagree with 5th generation, but I like Johto, and Absol's my favorite Pokemon, but 1st generation really kicks ass. Like, that would be the top one. Then the person says, Genwhiner, you hate 5th generation, even though there's an admittance to acceptance of other generations. So 5th gen fans are trying to pitifully portray 1st gen, and they come off as just dicks like the person in the bottom one. It doesn't accomplish anything. Another one that's one of my favorites is this post right here, the problem with Gen 1. I've seen this surface many times, and it blows my mind how people say, yep, see, 1st generation, worst generation, because of all these. If you read these are game glitches. You know why there were game glitches back in 1996? Because it was 1996. If you look at, like, this is how close-minded Genwhiners are. They don't understand the world outside of them, and I feel like it's kind of like that millennial mentality that people are starting to get really fed up with. I feel that the Genwhiner kind of argument just falls into all this millennial argument, but just specifically in Pokemon, and specifically without being able to tolerate any criticisms of the 5th generation. So we have the problem with Gen 1, and it's all game bugs and stuff, because programming was bad back then. Look at some of the greatest games of all time, like Super Mario 64 and Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. These games are broken. If you look at speedruns, people go and tear these games apart because they're so broken. Does that make them any less of games? No, because most of the time when you play it for the first time, you're not going to notice any of these things. And even if you do, it's not going to absolutely ruin your entire experience. And it doesn't mean, oh, 1st generation was bad because the programming representation wasn't complex enough to meet today's standards. That's just not how any form of arguing works, ever. This is what just keeps blowing my mind, that people will actually think that this is a valid criticism on Gen 1, you know. Oh, well, the pixels look bad because, you know, we could only program in pixels back then, so the designs are terrible compared to what we have now. Therefore, 5th generation's better. It's like, how does that make any sense? We were limited by hardware. We were limited in that situation. And even then, 1st generation was the generation that started it. Of course, it's going to be flawed, and then you have years to build upon it. You can't look at the foundation of something and say, well, that's the worst, and that means there's nothing to it, because the reason why Pokemon is so big is because there was something damn good about Generation 1. And the reason I can make these criticisms is I've been a Pokemon fan since Red and Blue came out, pretty much. Since I can remember my first memories, which are playing Pokemon. I have a deep love and respect for Pokemon, but even I'll look at Vanillix and go, come on, really? Garbodor, come on, really? I even have a top 10 least favorite Generation 5 video, which has tons of dislikes and hateful comments because people can't take any criticism. They're like, well, why do you hate 5th generation so much? It's like, well, these are just exclusively the worst 5th generation designs. Why do you have to take offense to that as 5th generation in a whole? That I'm going into one specific part of Pokemon that is isolated. Each generation has its own isolations. I'm saying, well, these are the flaws in them, and people get upset about that. So that just kind of shows what we're dealing with. But I've already shown, you know, I don't like a lot of the designs here. And that's not because I think Voltorb is better. I didn't put Voltorb on my favorite Pokemon list. And then there's the argument that a lot of Genwhiners make. It's like, whoa, what if they were swapped, huh? What if the Gears were the Pokemon in the 1st generation, and what if the Magnets were in the 5th generation? Then you'd be hating on the 1st generation by hating on what would have been the 5th generation, or some kind of argument like that. That's absolutely invalid because it didn't happen, and there's no proof of how that would work out whatsoever. What we know is the first generation was an overwhelming success that made what Pokemon is today what it is today. The massive success. If it was so flawed as all these Generation 5 people think, it would have fallen flat. It would have been not as popular. It would have been overtaken by Digimon or some kind of competitive, or maybe even those things wouldn't exist in the realm that they do today because there wouldn't have been as much of a love for it. Then we look at the 5th generation. Well, what if they swapped? What if I could go the other way with the argument. Well, what if 5th generation was the 1st generation and Pokemon died because of it? Because no one could fall in love with a Stunfisk like they could with a Magnemite. Like, Magnemite was one of my favorite Pokemon growing up as a kid. But you look at some of the designs in 5th generation, they're just outright ugly. They're overly complex. You can look at Muck and be like, alright, ambiguous slime. That's alright. I'm not a huge fan of it, but that's alright. You look at that and you look at Garbodor, that's a literal exploding trash bag. The design influence of the Pokemon have a little too much complexity to make them actually desirable compared to the 1st generation counterparts, even though there's not really too many counterparts. Like, okay, inanimate objects. Well, what about magnets versus gears and all the sorts of things like that? That's all the arguments you see from Genwhiners, and it really just infuriates me. And now we're on to my favorite part of the video. So if you've stayed this long, you are most likely on the same page as me. We're in the same boat, you know. We like a lot of aspects about Pokemon. Some 5th gen Pokemon we don't like, and then we see stupid person after stupid person telling us we're Genwhiner. These people are an enemy to language. Like, all the comments you're about to see, it's gonna be comment after comment, multiple videos, mine, some others. It's going to be a mess out there, but this is the idiot level that we're dealing with right here. So let's just get in with my video for List 5's top 10 least favorite Pokemon. In this video, I have 5 spaces that are going to be 5th generation Pokemon, and technically 7 Pokemon because I include all of the Monkey Trio. But anyways, I also mentioned 1st generation Pokemon on the list. I think it's actually the 2nd most amount of Pokemon that I mentioned. Yeah, people will say, Genwhiner ass fuck. Sorry bro, I just get pissed when you put Garbodor and Vanillix in the worst list. Well, that's my opinion. I think that these are the worst Pokemon designs in the entire game, and you don't get to say anything about that. You aren't going to come to me and then say, well, Muck is worse, therefore you are wrong. That's not how opinions work. And that's pretty much going to be the theme of this. That the theme is that no Genwhiner and a majority of 5th generation fans that I have encountered, not saying all, but a very large amount of 5th generation fans have no respect for opinion, and they just have very poor arguments. Like, you're not sorry if you call me a Genwhiner as fuck, and then 15 people agree. So there's 15 more idiots, and that's already 16 on this. And then other people are like, it looks like it was made to make Gen 5 look bad. So he's pretty much saying, your opinion's wrong, you're not allowed to dislike this Pokemon for the reasons your opinion has given. Again, those are just like what we're dealing with. And then we have another one. Why do you hate on Gen 5? There are way worse designs than other gens. Yes, I mentioned 1st generation Pokemon have some bad designs. I don't like Electabuzz. I don't like Jinx. But at the same time, you know, Muck, I think he's alright. Not saying he's the best, but he's not going to be in the last 50% of hated Pokemon for me. Magnezone is literally 3 magnets stuck together. Cool, I liked Magnemite, so 3 Magnemite making a Magnezone, I think that's interesting, and I really like that design. And then we see the comment that I showed earlier, this guy is a Genwunner, except I'm not. I think a majority of the Pokemon that I like in my top 10, actually I know a majority of the Pokemon are 2nd and 6th generation. So I like Pokemon after the 1st generation, but I also really like the newest Pokemon. Maybe it's just that 5th generation was bad to me. Maybe a lot of other people think that 5th generation was bad. Why can't you respect that? And then this guy right here. Keychain, Jingle Them, Scare Others, Halloween Pumpkin Ghost, Haunted Tree, and Cotton Candy. You know what? Those are actually some of my favorite Pokemon right there. 6th generation, I love so many of the 6th generation designs. The ghost designs are awesome. I like the idea of a haunted tree. I also like the idea of pumpkins because I personally like pumpkins. So pumpkin Pokemon is awesome, and I think a spectral keyring like Klefki is really nice, and then Slurpuff just destroys everything in battle, and I think it's pretty cool. Sure, food Pokemon. I don't like Vanillix, so I have to dislike Slurpuff. No, I feel Slurpuff was much better executed, and as you can see, I've replied to him. I love all the Pokemon you talk about, and I actually do it fairly. I don't say, well, you're defending 5th generation, or you're going to do this. I could have, like, asked him what his favorite Pokemon are, and then torn him down. No, I respect his opinion, but I'm just going to defend mine by saying, yeah, well, you know what? I don't care because those are the Pokemon I care about. So there are more like that. There's a lot of stupidity. I've deleted most of the comments because I don't want to deal with people feeling supported and justified in their absolutely wrong mentality. So next up, I want to go to the video that actually wanted me to do this video in the first place. I used to love this song, Alex Day, Pokemon, What Happened to You? Growing up, back in high school, I mean, look, this video is almost 6 years old. I was young back then. And then I would jam outside with my friends. This was like our theme song. And we didn't think, yeah, man, first gen was the best, and that's why we love the song so much. No, we were playing 4th generation while listening to that and just having a good old time. But yet, the 5th generation fans have tainted something so beautiful, even though it came out before 5th generation, even though it came out before the term Genwhiner. Genwhiner was started in the 5th generation because 5th generation fans needed to backlash against the hate because so many people disliked it. And the comments on this video genuinely upset me. They make me fear for humanity if people can actually feel justified in hating this video that has nothing to do with the Gen Wars, has nothing to do with 1st generation being the best gen. It's just a fun song. It's a lighthearted song that actually mentions Pokemon outside of the 1st generation. Let's just get into the stupidity of the comments. Genwhiner's Anthem, please stop. Again, this existed before Genwhiner was even a term, and we don't listen to it like it's an anthem. We enjoy it because it's a really nice song that doesn't support Genwhiners in any way. And then there's this comment. I like this comment. This comment restores my faith in humanity just a bit. I remember a couple years ago when people visited this page actually came to enjoy the song and not bitch and threaten people who prefer Gen 1. It's just a game. This guy's admitting to the threats. If you go to that, if you admit anything about enjoying 1st generation on that video, you are going to get destroyed by people. Remember that comic I showed earlier when it said anything past 151 is in Pokemon? No, you are going to be attacked by 5th generation fans for either liking a 1st generation thing too much. Oh, what's that? You like muck? Now you're an absolute piece of shit that doesn't deserve any of my attention, and it just kind of goes on like that. Or if you just like the ice cream cone. Everyone who liked this video is a mindless fanboy Nintendo, and they complain whenever a new Pokemon game comes out. Oh, yeah, because that means me. Everyone means me, right? I love that video. So, no, that's not how it is. Again, maybe 0.001 something % of people that are maybe not even trolling legitimate Gen 1ers, they don't go out and bother you or attack you. They just go out and state their opinion because, hey, Gen 1ers and non-Gen 1ers still share the same ideas, and that doesn't make them any more of a despicable person if it can even be proved. I'm still waiting to find proof of an irrefutable Gen 1er that it doesn't have any admitted elsewhere that cannot be contacted to be like, okay, legit, bro. Do you like Cyndaquil? Do you like any other Pokemon ever? Oh, not a Gen 1er? Huh, look at that. There are, like, I know friends that, you know, it's like, oh, they might come off as a Gen 1er at first, but then you find out that his favorite Pokemon's like Aggron or Groudon or something. Oh, look at that. Not a Gen 1er. Fantastic. I don't want change. I don't want change. Everything else stays the same. This is the problem with the arguments as well. They make up these nostalgic arguments and things about change that aren't true. No one thinks this way. No one's like, I don't want change. They just don't like what happens when you introduce ice cream, garbage bags, whatever Stunkfisk is, and ice cream. It doesn't really, yes, I mentioned ice cream twice. Don't comment about it in the comment section because I did that on purpose. We understood what we wanted back then. Like I mentioned, it was the foundation of Pokemon. It was what brought us success. Straying too far from that to encourage a different audience, especially one that's going to go and attack us, is going to be bad. Look at this. 24 people agree with this comment because it's supposed to be an inflammatory comment that mocks a Gen 1er. Yes, I dislike 5th generation. No, I do not dislike change. I was welcoming. I love 6th generation. 6th generation brought my passion back into Pokemon and did that for a lot of people I know, and it did that for a lot of people that have been called Gen 1ers because they're like, picked up X and Y. Good game. Oh, what's that? Not a Gen 1er? Man, it's like we embrace change when it's a good change and not some crappy over-designed game mechanics. And then this one, this is another one that kind of goes back on the past. Christ, what is with the widespread hate of Gen 1? See, people that are on the outside, people that aren't Gen 1ers, people that are fair fans of Pokemon look in and say, why are people hating Gen 1? That's the Genwhiners attacking people that just like aspects of Gen 1 and not actual Gen 1ers to feel justified about the actual terrible garbage that 5th generation has for some people's opinions. You know, if the comments weren't completely full of herd or die Gen 1er garbage years ago, you know, this it wasn't like this. And then the Gen 1ers came and ruined everything. So that's why I want to do this video. Oh, wait, never mind. We have one more. Let's go to Psylocke Hawk's video. This video has over 2 million views, tons of dislikes, and he even says it. I can't believe I'm putting an annotation on this thing. Aside from this video being my first ever countdown video, it's just an opinion. Again, 5th Gen fans cannot agree with an opinion. With us, if you disagree, be respectful about it. People are not respectful about it in the comment section. It's about fictional creatures and whatnot. And again, he says he picked up 6th Generation and thought it was cool in the video. So that's what this is about. Wow, Genwhiners bunch. Cheesy insult. And then, yeah, such a Genwunner, except where he admits to liking the majority of 6th Generation. So, as you can see, 60 or 57 people, technically, including the guy that commented, maybe he disliked his own comment, I don't know. Over 50 people, close to 60 people, think that he's a Genwunner, and he isn't. So there's the ratio right there. 0% of the 60 are correct in this assumption, and just shows that the idea of Genwunner isn't used properly. That there are very, very, very rare situations where there's actually a Genwunner, and it's such a small minority that it doesn't deserve this massive Genmore. So again, obvious Genwhunners, you know, not that he enjoyed anything else. Not a single 1st Generation Pokemon on the list. Seriously, like, what the hell? Maybe he actually likes 1st Generation Pokemon. Maybe he doesn't like other Pokemon. Opinion respect, maybe you could do that. I don't know. It seems impossible for these people because, again, he admits to liking other Pokemon in the video. Complains about increasing head count through evolution Pokemon. Notice how all the Gen 1s, Starmie, Weezing, Dodrio, Magneton, whatever, you know, these gain heads and stuff, but he didn't like, I think it was about Vanillux. He didn't like the way Vanillux did it. He didn't like gears, gaining extra gears. That's fairly uninspired, but again, Pokemon was the foundation. They did this with enough finesse to where it ended up working out, and you can dislike 2 different things that are somewhat similar. Doesn't make you a hypocrite, it doesn't make you wrong, it makes you have an opinion, which this person cannot respect. This video is just Genwhiner Rant. Anytime you see Genwunner in these comments, just know he's wrong. This Pokemon's just blank on with blank. Okay, whatever. So that's it. That's the video. That's the stupidity that we are dealing with when it comes to Genwhiners. Now, making a video about 5th Gen Pokemon isn't going to be immediate hate. You can do what the National Dex did and defend a Pokemon like Vanillux. Unfortunately, that's just going to be a gateway to ignorance. Let's go and look at these comments. Now, these people right here, you are the problem. Right here. This is the problem. Whenever someone starts hating on 5th Generation Pokemon like Vanillux, I'm sure to remind them of Magnemite. Why? That's not valid. None of these people have any facts or logic behind it. The amazing thing about being a person, that being human, having different thoughts to other different humans, being individual people, is that we can like or dislike 2 similar things. That just because I'm okay with Muck doesn't mean I can't hate Garbodor like I hate Garbodor. Are they the same exact thing? No. Are they similar concepts? Somewhat. But the way that they're executed is not appealing to me as an individual. And these people, they have no respect for opinions. They have no respect for individuality. Because it's like, well, what about Grimer and Muck? What about the Pokeball with a face on it? Cool. I hate ice cream with a face on it, but you know what? Voltorb never came off as bad to me. Not nostalgia, because I've played 1st Generation Pokemon and I've gone, ew, Electabuzz. I've looked at Pokemon and gone, man, that sucks. But in the 5th Generation, I feel like I was having a moment of sighing every 3 minutes or so when I encountered a new Pokemon. Like, really? This is what I'm dealing with for this game? Whatever. So that's why I didn't like it too much. And of course, there's Genwunner comments. Take that, Genwhunners, and then facts are facts, kid. No, just because the National Dex says it doesn't make it fact. Just because you can over-examine anything to death to justify it doesn't make it fact. You can do that with anything. Voltorb was actually useful, as well as Electrode, as a mimic. That it went back to RPG culture for this thing that's going to fool you. Sure, the sizes don't make sense, but in the game mechanics are what mattered, and that's how it works. So we can have this play out. Same with a Pokemon like Muck, a Pokemon like Magnemite. The representations of the drawbacks of industrial growth, and that, you know, you can have toxic waste and stuff, that these were problems back in the 90s. Like, this is where people were worried about climate change. Not as much now, but, you know, that back then it was really starting to come on to people. So they're like, well, what happens in this world where we're advancing so fast? We have all this technology, but we're not respecting the environment. Pokemon and things gain sentience like Muck. That's actually a pretty cool design. I guess that means that Muck is well designed. Now, true, the same can be argued about Garbodor, that in a city where trash and pollutants run rampant, but I still cannot stand Garbodor. And you know what? They're 2 different Pokemon. They have accomplished 2 different things. That's not hypocrisy. That's absolutely fine. And now let's go and look at some more just neglect for opinion. Alright, the stuff you guys said was pretty convincing, but sorry, I can't get past the fact that it's an ice cream cone. Just a cone. See? perfect. And then obviously the response to that is not pleasant at all. Same thing right here. You guys do know it's just an ice cream cone, nothing else. This guy, he didn't buy it. And you know what? I don't buy this video either. I'm not going to look into all these over-examinations and everything that's trying to justify this Pokemon. Here's the thing, if the Pokemon's design is naturally good, you don't have to read into the story for 5 minutes to figure out that it's actually a decent maybe design maybe. That's what this guy did. And then after that, did you watch the video? Yes, and I did not find it as a good argument. And then people are like, well, it had real evidence. Just because you say something and you can back it up doesn't make it hardcore objective evidence. That's the thing. No matter how well you can defend a Vanillux, my opinion is that it looks bad. Design, for the most part, intent, these things are subjective. There is no way that you can argue them as fact, that something is going to be better than something else off of design, because there's always going to be a difference of how we perceive it as people. And then my biggest peeve with the video is kind of mentioned right here, because God forbid people don't like a Pokemon. This video is pretty much just a justification of Vanillux, and it really upset this guy, and that's how I feel about it. Because one, it started even more Gen 5 BS, because now Gen 5 people think that they have an edge because Vanillux is so well designed, and that they can go and shit on first generation Pokemon even more. And right here's my favorite part, and being condescending isn't going to change people's minds on that front. And I completely agree with that because of this line right here from the video.
Then it isn't Game Freak that's out of ideas, it's you.
Now that sounds very insulting, and that's an actual part of the video. The idea is that if you disagree with Vanillux's design after all of their evidence, then you're the one that's out of ideas. You're the one that's closed-minded. You're the one that's wrong. And again, it's about design. What if even after all this, is it so hard to believe that I still don't care about this story? I don't care that, oh, it's a representation of American treats and it's supposed to be a happy, good thing. I still don't want ice cream in Pokemon no matter how much you can justify it. At least the comment section of the video isn't completely blind Genwhining. Now there are still really good, hopeful comments out there, and this one is on one of my videos, not any of the videos I mentioned. So, in all honesty, I hated 5th generation mostly because of the design, but 6th generation revived my love for Pokemon. That's just my opinion. And you know what? That's my opinion. That's a lot of my friends' opinions. That's a lot of other comments I've just kind of stumbled through. People think the same thing, and I've also noticed people will say stuff like, oh, well, there aren't as many Genwhunners anymore, or you'll still see people saying, well, yeah, that's because the Gen 5 people, we won because they know that their generation is worse or something. But overall, it just does feel like while there are less Genwhunners, the Gen Wars are about the same. That Genwhiners will keep kicking up arguments whenever they get a chance to, and I feel that's because 6th generation was so much better than 5th generation. It revived so many people's loves of Pokemon, it made 5th generation look even worse. Because now they can't call us nostalgia fags if it's like, well, I love 1st gen, love 2nd gen, hate 5th gen, love 6th gen. Well, how am I a nostalgia fag if I'm actually just going to enjoy the newest part of Pokemon? Some people do dislike aspects of the 6th generation, but for the most part, it feels like those things died off because the people being perceived as Genwhunners are now saying, well, I like 6th generation, 5th can suck it. You can't call them a Genwhunner anymore. You just have to call them like a Gen 5 hater, but that's how it always was. Maybe those person were Gen 3 and 4 fans, but it was just easier to call them a Genwhunner back then because that was, since 5th generation was the newest thing, that's what we could base it off of. So that's what we're dealing with right now, and I feel that that really nails it right there. That 5th generation looks worse because of 6th gen, and now there's about as much hate as ever, if not a little bit more, to compensate. They just tend to attack and then play victim, and then, like, they're the one being victimized by the one Genwunner that's ever encountered them in their life. Even if there are real Genwhunners out there, why is it a problem to you? Okay, they think that your ice cream sucks and you're a terrible person before it. That doesn't mean you retaliate to 10 other people who aren't Genwhunners that they suck for being this made-up idea of Genwunner that you have. Let the people enjoy the nostalgia that they have. Back in the 1st generation, that game was fine to them. They didn't like the direction where it went. Respect that. Okay, they're not Pokemon fans now, but they're still Pokemon fans at heart because that was them in their childhood. Pokemon might have tried to catch them back. They might have found some other things like, alright, maybe I like the designs of 4th, 5th generation, 6th generation Pokemon, but maybe I'm a little too old for this now. Maybe something happened in them that made them change, but they still love those memories that they have. You're just being a dick and killing their memories. So that's like the main thing about this video. The reason why I did it, because I hate idiots. I hate the stupidity here. I can go in and just debunk all those guys. There's thousands of people that misuse Genwunner all the time. Like with that first one, 600 something upvotes in like a day or two over that Voltorb one, and that's not necessarily a Genwunner thing, but people are like, haha, suck at Genwhunners, and that's why they like it. They just absorb these jokes and whatnot, And that's why I'm doing this video. Some people will watch this video and be like, man, I don't like you anymore because you're mean to people. And then, like, okay, so the guy that calls me a fucking Genwhiner ass fuck, apparently he's all in the right because I'm not allowed to disagree with him when he's absolutely wrong. There is nothing correct about what he said because I'm proven to not be a Genwhiner by loving second, first, all the generations of Pokemon except for fifth. But that's why I deem it Genwhiner. Genwhiner, you're not allowed to have anything against 5th gen, so 5th gen crybaby. That's what a Genwhiner is, if we want to put it as simply as possible. And I'm going to never censor myself when it comes to Pokemon. Pokemon's my life. We have Pokemon poster, Pokemon bedspread. I think I'm pointing to it. Yeah, Pokemon bedspread. That's actually a Lugia plush right there that's in the corner. Tons of Pokemon merchandise. Pokemon collar tag, Pokemon hat, Pokemon wristband that's actually in excess of me. How much of a Pokemon fan do I have to show you guys that I love it? Hey, look at this, a Klefki. Oh my god, it's 6th generation Pokemon. It's like I'm a Genwunner or something. This is why I hate it, and this is why we'll speak out and condemn these fucking idiots about it. And could you see the smile on my face? Because they are fucking idiots. And if that upsets you, I don't care. Sure, Pokemon, like, my life is Pokemon right now, and I do have to thank all the 160,000 people that support me by being my subscriber. It's not that I hate and take my subscribers for granted, but if you're one of, say, 1,000 people that don't like me because of this video, or you just want to leave, then go leave. I don't care. I'd rather not censor myself and show my true love of Pokemon and feeling that, you know, these are the assholes that are ruining the community. I'm going to try to slow it down, or at least give us a way of fighting back. Us Genwhiners, call him a Genwhiner. That, sure, it'll keep the war going, but maybe it'll be a little better when they just don't feel as justified for running off in their pure ignorance and stupidity anymore. That's why I want to do this video. So even if you made it this far, you probably got outraged a while ago. If you're actually a Gen 5 fan, you already unsubscribed at this point. So we're on the same wavelength if you made it this long. All like 3% of people watching this video have actually made it to the end right now. So yeah, you probably don't care anyways because you know exactly how I feel about this, that I'm going to fight for what I believe is right in Pokemon. And if people think that I'm taking my subscribers for granted for it, I don't give a fuck about that, because I don't. I love each and every one of you that made it this far. I love everyone that continues to support me because it lets me live this Pokemon life. But I will get offended when people are fucking destroying this community. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I hope you all have a nice day. Thank you for watching. Oh yeah, also this video took me like 12 hours or something to make. It took a very long time because I had to Gyazo, I had to screen caps all the things, I had to search all the videos, I had to dig through comments, I had to edit it, I had to make each individual like editing picture, I had to record the video, which took a while, I had to edit the video, which was like hundreds of pictures in the end overall that I sorted through and ended up editing and stuff, and it just took a very long time. So yeah, I'm passionate about this for sure.